Good morning all. Today we are going to study about the design of transformer course. In the last session we have studied about the derivation of output equations of both single phase transformer as well as three phase transformer. Different types of core sections are used in practice. In the case of a shell type transformer, the cores used are generally of rectangular cross section, whereas in the case of core type transformers, the core section will be of either rectangular, square or stepped one. Let's see the rectangular core in detail. This diagram is actually representing the rectangular core. The shaded portion is indicating the rectangular core, and the outside rectangle is actually the rectangular coil. So from this diagram it's very clear that whenever we are using rectangular core, the surrounding coil also will be rectangular in shape. They are usually suitable for small power transformers of low voltage ratings. When this rectangular cross section is being used in the core type transformers, the ratio of depth to width varies between 1.4 to 2. This portion is actually indicating the depth and this portion is actually indicating the width, and their ratio varies from 1.4 to 1.4 to 2. In the case of shell type transformers, when rectangular core section is being used, the width of this central limb is 2 to 3 times the depth of the core. Next, let's see square and stepped core. Usually circular coils are preferred for high voltage distribution and power transformers. This is due to their superior mechanical characteristics. In order to accommodate the circular coil, either square or stepped cores are used. During short circuit and overload condition, excessive leakage fluxes will be produced, which develops severe mechanical stresses on the coils. In the case of circular coils, these forces or these stresses are actually radial, and hence this won't cause any change in the shape of the coil. Whereas in the case of rectangular or square coils, these forces will act perpendicularly and hence tends to deform the shape of the coil. This is actually the superior mechanical characteristics of the circular coil comparing with that of the rectangular coil. You will be able to see in this diagram, both the cores used are actually square and stepped ones, but the coils are circular in shape. These circles are actually representing the inner surface of windings. They are also said to be circumscribing circles. In larger transformers, for better space utilization, the stepped cores are generally used. The stepped cores are also said to be cruciform cores. As the space utilization is better in the case of cruciform cores, if you are considering a square core of a particular area, then diameter of circumscribing circle will be smaller in the case of stepped core, having the same cross-sectional area as that of the square core. Therefore, when the ratings of the transformer increases, it is preferred to use multiple stepped cores rather than single stepped one. This is due to the better space utilization property. But whenever we are trying to increase the number of steps, then definitely a large labor cost is incurred for shearing and assembling of different types of laminations. In the case of a single stepped core, we have to use only 2 types of laminations, while it is coming with the 2 stepped core, we have to use 3 types of laminations. So as the number of steps are increasing, definitely numerous types of laminations has to be used. This will result in a large labor charge. That is the only disadvantage which is associated with the stepped core. Next, we are going to obtain the core area factor and other 2 ratios associated with the different types of cores. First, we are going to see the case of a square core section. In this diagram, this portion represents the square core section, and this one is actually the circumscribing circle. If you see in this diagram, the diameter of the circumscribing circle is same as that of the diagonal of square core. The side of the square is indicated as small a. From this right angle triangle, you can easily say that D is actually square root of 2 into a, which is represented here. From this relation, the side of the square, a can be written as d by square root of 2. Next we are going to find the relation of gross core area and net core area. The difference between these two is gross core area is actually the area including the insulation portion also. Net core area represents the area of iron alone, that is, it will be excluding the insulation portion. So first we will calculate the gross core area. It is indicated as AGI. This can be easily calculated by finding the area of the square, that is A square. Now you have to make the substitution of A from here. Then you will be getting the value of gross core area as 0.5 d square. Next we are going to find the net core area. This is just like how we have found the net iron length in one of our previous video sessions. That is, we have determined the net iron length considering slotting as 0.9 times into the total length of the iron. Similarly here also net iron area or net core area can be found out by multiplying the gross core area with the stacking factor, and the value of stacking factor will be generally 0.9. So from here we will be getting the net core area, which is represented as AI is equal to 0.45 d square. The circumscribable circle's area is actually pi r square. That can be represented as pi by 4 d square, where d is the diameter of the circumscribing circle. Now we are going to find the three ratios associated with it. The first ratio is net core area divided by the area of circumscribing circle. We have already determined both these quantities, so we have to simply find their ratio and we will be getting the value as 0.58. Similarly, we have to find the ratio of gross core area to the area of circumscribing circle. These two values also we are aware. So by simply substituting, we will get the value as 0.64. And the last one is core area factor. It is actually defined as the ratio of net core area to the square of diameter of the circumscribing circle. In this case, the net core area is 0.45 d square. We have determined it here. You have to just simply divide it with the square of the diameter of the circumscribing circle, that is d square. Then you will be getting the value of core area factor, which is indicated as Kc as 0.45. The same procedure will be followed for finding the ratios in the case of two-stepped or cruciform core. So this is actually the two-stepped core and this is their circumscribing circle. D is the diameter of the circumscribing circle. Small a is actually the length of this rectangle. The breadth of this rectangle is indicated as small b. This rectangle and this rectangle are one and the same. So this is actually the length of this rectangle, which will be small a, and this will be the breadth of this rectangle, which will be small b. And this theta is actually the angle between the diagonal of this rectangle and the length. And this diagonal is actually the diameter of the circumscribing circle also. Therefore, I can easily say from this right angle triangle, A is equal to d cos theta and this B is equal to d sin theta. Now let's determine the gross core area. As we know, it is indicated as AGI. So in the case of this two-stepped core, the gross core area will be actually the area of this rectangular portion plus this rectangular portion plus this rectangular portion. So the sum of the areas of this rectangle and these two rectangles will give you the gross core area. This rectangular area can be found out by simply multiplying A with B. If you see this complete rectangle, this portion will be A minus B by 2. This whole length indicates A and this much portion will be B. So this portion will be indicating A minus B by 2. This portion and this portion together will be indicating A minus B. So definitely this single portion will be representing just A minus B by 2. And this is actually small b. So definitely you can find the area of this portion now by simply multiplying A minus B by 2 into B. Similarly, you can find the area of this portion also by simply multiplying A minus B by 2 into B. On solving this relation, we will be getting it as 2AB minus B square. do the substitution of A and B from here. Then on simplifying the trigonometric relation, you will be getting the relation as d square sine 2 theta minus sine theta square or sine square theta. To find out the condition for maximum core area, we will be using the condition for maxima and minima, which we have already studied in your mathematics classes. That is, we will be taking the first derivative of the area and equating it to 0. That is, we will be finding the first derivative of this term and we will equate it to 0. The first derivative will be taken with respect to theta. Therefore, we will be able to get the value of theta as 31.72 degrees. As we have already mentioned, A is actually d cos theta and B is actually d sin theta. From the condition of maximum core area, we can easily determine the dimensions of core corresponding to maximum core area. That is, A is equal to 0.85d and B is equal to 0.53d. Here for theta we have made the substitution 31.72 degrees. Thereafter we can determine the value of gross core area by making the substitution of these values in this relation, that is 2ab minus b square. Finally, we will be getting the value of gross iron area as 0.618 d square. Once after gross core area is determined, one can easily find the value of net core area by multiplying it with the stacking factor. So after making the suitable substitutions, you will be getting the value of net core area as 0.56 d square. Now you know the values of net core area and gross core area. So therefore you can easily find the ratios. By making suitable substitutions, you will be able to calculate the value of these two ratios and the value of core area factor. So far we have calculated or we have analyzed the square core and cruciform core, and the corresponding values we obtained are being plotted here. Similarly, the values of 3-stepped core and 4-stepped cores are also given here. These ratios are quite important. If you are observing the readings in this observation table, you will be able to find that when the number of steps are increasing, definitely the values of all these three ratios are also increasing. This is actually the indication of better space utilization when the number of steps are being increased. Next, we are going to see how to find out the value of core area. The relation for EMF per turn you are quite familiar, that is EMF per turn is equal to K into square root of Q. The value of this K for different types of transformers are given here. In the case of single phase shell type transformer, its value will be from 1 to 1.2, whereas in the case of single phase core type transformer, its value lies between 0.75 and 0.85. Similarly, for 3-phase transformers are also given here. After making a suitable substitution of K from this table into this relation, we will be able to determine the value of EMF per turn. As you know, the standard relation of EMF per turn is 4.44 phi m into F. From that relation, you can easily calculate the value of phi m, which is actually the main flux. Once if the value of main flux is known, assuming a suitable value for this flux density, that is maximum value of flux density, we will be able to calculate the value of net iron area. Once if the net iron area value is known, we can determine the value of gross iron area by simply dividing it with the stacking factor. This is how the core areas are being determined from the voltage per turn relation. In the next slides, we will say how a suitable value of BM has to be chosen in order to determine the value of AI and AGI. That is choice of flux density. Generally, transformer cores are made up of laminated steel sheets. This material provides a very less reluctance path for the magnetic flux. It is this value of flux density which determines the core area. If you are choosing a larger flux density value, then definitely the core area required will be also small in size, and this results in a large saving on the cost of iron. Due to the reduction in the core area, definitely the length of mean turn of the windings required also will be small. This helps to reduce the cost of copper also. But the major disadvantage while choosing a large value for the flux density is the iron losses becomes very high. Moreover, large value of flux density demands a larger magnetizing current from the supply, which will increase the harmonics level. The selection of flux density must depend upon the service conditions of the transformer. In the case of a distribution transformer, They are actually designed for a high all-day efficiency. So if you are taking a very large value of flux density, then definitely the value of ion losses also will be very large. As I have explained in the last class, the distribution transformer remains turned on during the 24 hours of the day. Whether they are carrying the load or in unloaded condition doesn't matter. So energy is always lost from this transformer in the form of ion losses. So in order to reduce that, definitely you have to choose a small value of Bm in the case of a distribution transformer. The usual values of Bm chosen for the case of distribution transformer and power transformer are given here. When the material used is hot rolled silicon steel. If you are using CRGO steel, that is cold rolled grain oriented steel, this value can go up to 1.9 Tesla. This Weber per meter square is Tesla only. So these are the parameters which must be considered while you are selecting the value of flux density. Once after choosing a suitable value of flux density, you will be able to determine the value of core area, that is net ion area AI, from which you can find the value of gross ion area AGI. With that, we are completing today's session. Thank you.